At last, Pandaemonium. Hello everyone, and welcome to the final part of Final Fantasy II. Let's end this game off with some Death Riders. Rank 6 enemy, 1290 HP, 10,000 gold, weak to fire, resists ice, and that's about it. Their normal attacks can drain HP, but nothing really special about them. I think they have drops, but I forget if the wiki is glitched about that. Yes, it looks like the wiki does not show any item drops. Minnie and Toad's the best way to take care of them.
So they're just souped up Dark Knights?
More or
Dark
less.
Knights.
I actually find the Dark Knights a bit harder for their point in the game, because at this point, as you can see, I have almost 1500 HP, which is more than enough to finish the game at. And since Minnie and Toad are going to be like level 8 by the time this part ends, you really shouldn't have any trouble with them. There's only one enemy in this entire area you should ever have trouble with, and I forget what floors it's encountered on. It's a rare encounter, I know that much. It's like 1.8% chance of running into it. Which I'll go over during one of the multiple boss fights in this area.
Next enemy is a DV Mantis, rank 7, 1290 HP, 2000 gil, absorbs fire, resists ice, uses fire 16, and attacks can paralyze.
Mantis Devil's here, not too interesting of an enemy. Kind of an odd time to throw an upgraded Mantis at us, considering we ran into the first one back underneath Castle Finn, which is like half the game ago. In fact, besides that one enemy I just mentioned, none of the enemies here should really give you any trouble. In fact, let's see, can I go over that enemy now? Yeah, I should be able to. You rarely run into them on the higher levels of Pandaemonium here, but they are the series' first Iron Giants. Rank 7, 3500 HP, 2000 to 10,000 guild, absorbs fire, weak to ice and lightning, and resists matter. They can only use Mist 16 on them. However, they have an attack and defense stat of 180. They are the closest thing this game has to a super boss. And they can drop a lot of good stuff. I forget exactly what, though. I know they can drop Excaliburs, but the wiki is being glitchy about showing item drops. Just take it from...
How?
It just shows GBA item dropped and such. It doesn't say any names. Just know this, you can get a lot of good stuff from them.
Maybe I can check.
Possibly. And in the meantime, the next new enemy is a MT Golem. It's like, I think it's actually supposed to stand for Mithril Golem. Rank 7 enemy, 2000 HP, 1000 to 2000 gold. Resists fire, ice, weak to lightning, but also resists poison and matter. They have no abilities though beyond that. They are just physical tanks. Take them down with a good Berserk Spell and physical attack from either Guy or Leon. You having the same thing I do?
Yeah.
It's probably just either someone probably failed with like scripting or something on the site.
It does that to me with Final Fantasy IV sometimes.
Yeah, that's probably the wiki's fault then. The thing is with a lot of the enemies in Pandaemonium is that if they're not like the size of the golem, they can be one shot with Minnie, really. I'm trying to hold back on it when it's not a random encounter that is new at least. But nothing in here is really too hard, though I gotta say, even though we're listening to battle music right now, I absolutely love this place's main theme. It's so good.
The main theme of Pandaemonium?
Yeah, the main song for this area is such a great tune.
I like Final Fantasy IX's Pandaemonium song a little bit more.
I forget if that's a remix of this. I don't think it is.
I'd have to listen to it. I would think not. It doesn't, from what I understand, it doesn't sound much like this.
Mind you, Pandaemonium in 9 was also entirely different from this. This is a castle of hell. And meanwhile...
I mean, it's a castle, but, like, really weird. It has, like, eyeballs and squishy things and mushrooms everywhere.
Yeah, I suppose.
Next enemy is a beast demon. Demon beast. Rank 7 enemy, 1000 HP, 2000 gil, resists fire, ice bolt, uses fog 6, dispel 6, bolt 10, and stop 8.
Minnie and Toad, best way to go about them. Anyway, one thing I do want to go over now is that I mentioned it before, the Soul of Rebirth. That is a bonus quest in the Dawn of Souls 20th anniversary in PS and iOS Android versions of Final Fantasy II. You get it for beating the game. And it's an interesting little thing in the fact that you play as all the characters that died. Min, Richard, Joseph, and Scott, Gordon's brother. And the interesting thing about that is that Scott aside, all the characters that join you in that have the equipment and spells they had when they left. So if you want to have a blood sword, you might as well give that to Richard before he dies. And what's interesting about that is that the areas you go through in that are mirrored versions of areas in the main game. You go through this Rakia area, which is a mirrored version of the Jade Passage. You go through this town named Mechanon, which is a mirrored version of Poft. And then you go through Aberoth, which is a mirrored version of Pandaemonium here. And the interesting thing is that you fight another final boss in there that's a light version of the final boss in this area. And it's a weird little thing that they do there. I'm not sure why they did it, other than maybe add on to the ending this game already has, but it's there, I suppose. Though, if you really want to make good advantage of the characters, you're going to need to do a hell of a lot of grinding.
I like how the different levels of this castle are, like, completely different in terms of, like, design, I guess? I don't know what to say. Graphic design, maybe? Yeah,
I suppose. And we do get the series' first crystal area.
Wow, first crystal area?
Something they would never stop using.
Okay, next enemy is a Z-Borgin. I don't know exactly...
Zombie Borgin.
Zombie Borgin?
Yeah.
So is that like...
It's Borgin, the guy that we killed right before Joseph died.
Ah. Rank 7 enemy, 2,500 HP, drops 3,000 gil, weak to fire, resist ice, uses flare 16, normal attacks can paralyze. I assume he's also weak to life?
Yes. And the song we're listening to right now, even though we're not going to be listening to it too long, is the PSP version of the Pandaemonium theme, because I just couldn't go without this song playing at least once.
It's an amazing remix.
I love the PSP soundtrack. And he's dead. Well, dead. Killing zombies is weird.
Re-dead.
No, that's the Zelda enemy. They're even then they're supposedly not even real corpses. They're supposedly like statues or something. Either way, you'd think that's the only chest that you can reach in this path because you have to go through those 4 doors earlier, but nope, you can walk through this wall. And in this chest, find the Masamune.
You called it the Mesa Moon last time.
I don't know how to speak Japanese, dude. And the Masamune is actually technically this game's ultimate sword. 199 attack, 90 accuracy, 4% evade. And when you use it as an item, it casts haste 11, which is really good, and that's why I'm actually giving it to Leon, because he actually has intelligence that can take advantage of that. And now I want to enter the second door, which leads us to the same area we were last time, only a different section of it.
That seems slightly annoying.
Yeah, thankfully there's a lot of hidden walls. And in here we get the Genji helm. In fact, you get a lot of Genji equipment in this area. But it's way too heavy to consider using it with my stats. And we get to fight Tiamat again. Rank 7 enemy, 5,000 HP, 10,000 gil. Absorbs fire, ice, and bolt, and poison. It can drop an elixir, a phoenix down, a life book, a holy book, or a flare book, and it can use flame 16, ice 16, bolt 16, and mist 16. However, Minnie and Toad, though I do try to just stick with blood swords, considering I just did good 4/5 of his HP right there. Or her, technically. Not a very hard boss, honestly. In fact, you can say that for a lot of the bosses here in Pandaemonium. Which is kind of sad, but...
What I find interesting is that Tiamat is the guardian of the wind crystal, or it's like the guardian of the wind in 9 of that shrine, I guess. And it's saddening that you don't get to fight her. You don't get to fight her in Disc 3 compared to when you can fight Lich.
Well, even then, technically speaking, there are 2 entirely different models for Lich. Did you ever notice that?
Yes, I did.
Supposedly, the Earth Guardian is just based off Lich. At least that's what I've read up on.
Huh.
Either way, doors 3 and 4 lead to an entirely different room from doors 1 and 2, but we want to enter the 4th door before the 3rd because it allows us to come up here and get the Genji armor, but then get attacked by...
A wolf devil?
Satan!
Are you kidding me?
Otherwise known as Beelzebub in later translations, rank 7 enemy, 5,000 HP, 10,000 gil, absorbs fire, resists ice, can drop a black robe, a betrayal fang, a Hermes shoes, sage's wisdom, or a Gaia's drum. Mind you, those are all like PSP version names. And can use confuse 16, flare 16, and its normal attacks can inflict poison.
Why?
Because my friend Fallon got this stuck in my head last week.
I'll stick to my Tignataro, please.
Really though,
My real
Beelzebub
name is
is
Beelzebub.
Beelzebub here is not really hard. He's just kind of there. Though I find it interesting that they gave this guy the name of Satan, when Satan is supposedly the guy the Emperor struck down in order to become the King of Hell.
That maybe he trapped him in that box.
Yeah, except they're entirely different characters. That is Beelzebub in every other translation, I believe. Yeah. So that's a weird little thing.
I find it weird how you had random encounters and then you used, like, after, like, 2 steps of finding every single, like, treasure, and then that's just very convenient.
That was convenient for me.
For transitions. Next enemy is a devil wolf. Rank 7 enemy, 820 HP, which is really low for this point of the game. Drops 2,000 gil, uses Curse 8, watch out. Charm 16, watch out. Fire 11, and X Zone. Damn.
I've never actually seen them use X-Zone. I'm just copying that off the wiki. I think it's supposed to be an instant death spell, but I'm not sure where you can buy it. Probably Mysidia, but eh.
I didn't even know X Zone existed until Final Fantasy. I didn't think X Zone existed until Final Fantasy V.
It was in 1, I think. Though I think it was called like XXX or something. Quadruple X.
Found Peach's XXX.
Really though, nothing too tough about them. There are more mage-type enemies than anything, but as you can see, Minnie is my best friend, as always.
Minnie. That's cute.
At this point, though, the area becomes pretty straightforward because I think there's only 3 more chests, including this one, which contains a ribbon. But it's guarded by Astaroth. Go ahead, Kenny.
Astaroth is a rank 7 enemy, 7,000 HP, drops 10,000 gil, resists 4. Force? Fire?
I think it's supposed to be fire.
Resists fire, ice bolt, uses fire 16, arrow 16, drain 16, blind 16, death 16. Normal attacks can drain HP. It drops a white robe, ice scythe, thread, heart, and wind flood. What are those things?
Heart cures. They're all like status curing items, aside from the wind flow. I think that deals like arrow damage. Nothing too special, honestly, and I could have minied or toted him, but I decided to go the long way and use the blood swords and physical attacks.
Proud of you.
It hurt to do because I could have killed him so much quicker. And also, you may have noticed, I've pretty much used every boss theme in the game so far. That's because these guys all use the in-game 8-bit boss theme, but I wanted to give the PSP versions one last farewell. Because I do love these tracks.
The first time I heard the PSP one, I was like,
It grows on you. Especially this one. I didn't like it when I first heard it, but it's actually growing on me a lot because while it starts off slow, the second half is really good. Also, look at that smile.
Creeper.
Astaroth, though, he's nothing really interesting, honestly. Minnie and Toad is probably the best way to go about it, just because he's over quicker. But, yeah. And there he goes. Also, you may have noticed Kenny had 2 enemies in a row there. That's because that was the second to last enemy. I'm actually really sad I didn't run into the Iron Giant because that's the closest thing this game has to a super boss. Either way, as for the ribbon in this game, this is actually, no, they weren't introduced in this one, they were introduced in 1. The ribbons, I'm looking on the weapon page for ribbons, great. Ribbons have 10 defense, 0% evade, but 21% magic defense, and they resist all elements and statuses. So they're pretty good.
All elements?
Yeah. You take less damage from every element. So they're really good for this point in the game, really, because a lot of things can inflict stuff on you. And while they don't have as much defense as other stuff, the elemental stuff's pretty worth it in my eyes.
Elder IQ?
Maxes out intelligence for a battle, not worth using. What's interesting about this room, by the way, you remember those fire, ice, and thunder gigases we fought back in Mysidia Tower?
You can find them in random encounters here?
Yeah, often partnered with bombs, of all things.
That's really weird.
Also, as you can see here, the encounter rate really gets kind of bad at this point. Mind you, it helps that you have had to play through essentially 3 areas in a row. This could take you up to 2 hours if you're playing the game on your own. I think they add save points in the later versions, but don't quote me about that. And in here are the game's last chests, actually. A Hellfire, not worth using.
Are any of them in here worth using?
Not really. If it's a lot of the battle use items, either just inflict status elements or I think they use like the level 8 of a status element spell, and the other ones just use 16 level damage
Inventory
spell.
space.
And it's just not really worth using because you can do more damage with your own stuff.
Also, I'll be honest. Unless this is Final Fantasy 12 or 10, really, I will never use the items that inflict damage.
I do in 5 occasionally.
I do that for Chemist.
Yeah, Chemist
I've actually
is really
learned.
good.
I never used the Chemist until I learned how good the Chemist is thanks to Dark Kefka.
And either way,
So, yeah.
if we completely skipped over that last floor, just head to the low enough corner.
This reminds me of Culex. That I don't know why.
And
Maybe
here
it's
we
'cause of
are,
red space.
right before the final boss. Let's take a last look at everyone's stats. Firion did really good on Spirit, passing 99. Maria's doing pretty good on Intelligence. Guy is a god practically with his power and strength. And Leon is just kind of there. And as for the last equips, I didn't really change anything around. You might want to switch to the blood swords before even starting the battle. But I wanted to at least make the battle somewhat visually interesting.
Are you gonna end up using the blood sword at some point?
Yes. So at last you've made it. Prepare for the fight of your life. Final boss, and the final boss theme for the PSP version, against the Emperor. No rank available for him, 10,000 HP, no guild, resists fire, ice, lightning, poison, and absorbs matter. Uses Meteor 16, which he just used on us. No, Meteor 10, rather. Bind 16, Curse 16, Dispel 16, Flare 16, Slow 16, and his physical attacks drain HP. And he would be threatening if it wasn't for Berserk and Blood Swords.
I love the boss theme in Final Fantasy II.
Yeah, so do I, and this remix of it is just awesome.
Final boss theme, I mean.
Yeah. Really, though? The Meteor attack's probably the most...
Damn!
Yeah, that's a good third of his HP right there. Keep in mind, that's HP that he's not only dealing to the Emperor, but he's draining to him.
Okay, question. So, this percentage-based damage, is that percent of max HP or percent of current HP?
I think it is... max. Yeah, the Blood Sword's really effective against him. In fact, it even says here on the FF Wiki, Blood Sword is famously effective against the Emperor.
Famously effective.
Yeah, the Blood Sword's definitely more effective in the NES version than it is in like the Game Boy Advance version, because it says it drains 1/16th, but there's no way that 3,750 is 1/16th of 10,000.
That was almost half his health.
Yeah, admittedly, he did get a bit of a buff in the later versions, but by that I mean they changed his magic of defense to a stat, and they gave him 5,000 more HP. And he's dead! Yeah, again.
Yay for the dissolve. Critical hit.
Yep.
What? You ended with a crit? Wow.
I was kind of happy that happened. I was like, oh, that's an X special FU. I was beaten twice. How can it be? Let's get out of here somehow.
Look
because
who I get to mess with next.
It's weird though because there's no way you can really exit. You did it! Congratulations! You have beaten a great game. No, I haven't. So you came back. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I'm Do It World. Pirate life is great. Come back whenever you want. And for some reason, I always thought that Layla had a bit of a thing for Firion based on how she tends to look out for him. And Nellie's here. Randomly enough. Oh God, ghosts! And they're just gonna leave and try to rebuild the world. Bye, guys. You were totally well-developed characters. No, they weren't. And everything's more or less wrapped up. But Leon seems a bit apprehensive. Now, what I always got from these lines here is that Leon wasn't actually under the influence of black magic. He was always the Dark Knight. He just really cared about his friends, so he got them out of the town of Finn when it was raided. And they make it sound like they were going to make a sequel to this game, storyline at least, because Leon just kind of leaves. And, oh god, Star Wars ghosts!
What? Oh.
I do kind of like this moment, though. By the way, I should mention the Soul of Rebirth. The final boss of that is actually happening at the same time with the final boss of the main game. And that was them saying their goodbye from that path. And so, the era of war came to an end. In time, the long and hard days would be forgotten, but people would always remember the children who saved the world. To the souls of the four, the friendship will never be forgotten, except for Leon, who just kind of left. And by the way, I absolutely love this ending theme. And, ladies and gentlemen, that is Final Fantasy II. I am more indifferent to this game than I used to be. I used to outright hate it, now I'm just kinda with it. And here's the thing about it. For the most part, I don't think it's a terrible game. The story is pretty good for NES standards, the soundtrack is phenomenal, I will never speak ill of this game's soundtrack. But the thing that really drives me home and does not like it that much, that was terrible grammar. The thing I really don't like about this game is the level system. I mean, it makes sense. Use your stuff and you get good at it. But for a game like this, that's not only super easy to abuse if you know how to grind right, but it's just kind of tedious to grind up, and I just don't like that. Admittedly, some parts about it would get fixed in later games, like the insult penalty is kind of gone in later versions, and you can start dual wielding later versions even. But it's just not a game that interests me very much. And because of that, it is still one of my least favorite games in the series. Not my overall least favorite, as I mentioned the last part. This is now more so my second least favorite game in the series. Final Fantasy VIII has fallen far from its graces. Well, you were blind, Kenny. What did you think about it?
Okay, let's see. So, my first experience with this game is interesting because... Oh, God. Oh my god, what do I say? Oh my god. I got it on the... So you told me about it with the Final Fantasy Portal app for one, and I thank you for that, because it gave me at least somewhat of a look. And it was interesting that it was during the time of this LP. Like, of all the times for it to be free and all that kind of stuff. So I played it on the bus for a while, and I didn't really get that far because, one, I was being stupid and fighting the generals, which you should never do, but I didn't know that, and so I just said, what do I do now? Because the beginning was so bland for me at first, and especially, like, I guess the negative influence that Kyle was putting on me, kind of, with his bashing of it, I suppose, with exception of the soundtrack and stuff, kind of just probably had me thinking the same thing. But from what I've seen so far, it shows promise. It makes me really want to play the last little bit of the game, but not the beginning.
It's not the worst game I've ever played. In fact, I have played far worse RPGs and such, but it's not a game I go back to often. In fact, I haven't played this since freshman year of high school. And it's one, I can see why people like it. There is a lot of fun to be had in it, I will say that. And by the way, I'm inserting the PSP credits since I did that last time. But all I can really say about it is that it's just kind of there for me. People enjoy it, I can see why, but it's just not my thing. With that said, though, next time we meet up in the Final Fantasy universe, we are doing Final Fantasy III on the NES, not the DS version, because I prefer the NES version.
Why? Do you know how to break the game again?
I know how to break it a bit more, and I think that while they made a lot more classes useful in the DS version, I know the NES version just better. However, that is not the next RPG I'll be tackling with Kenny. The next RPG...
Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, it's Chrono Trigger.
Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Damn it, Kenny! But
I just love that game so much!
I think I mentioned it back in Final Fantasy 1, even. I have a set order for the games I want to tackle with Kenny. I wanted to do 1 and 2, then take a break with Chrono Trigger, then do 3, 4, and end off the games I had planned with Kenny with 7. Though I think I do kind of want to, I think I mentioned this to you like last night or something, Kenny, but I do actually want to do Mega Man the Wily Wars with you, because in 2 of the 3 cases, well, technically 2 out of 4 of the cases in Mega Man the Wily Wars, it'll be the 3rd time I'm technically LPing those games, and that would not be easy to do.
Yeah,
but we could
makes sense.
Yeah, but we can talk more about that later. But yeah, Final Fantasy 2, not the worst game I've ever played. I can definitely always recommend you play the listen to the soundtracks. But either way, if you want to play this, there are actually a plethora of versions you can play. As soon as I get the Wikipedia page up so I can remember what those are. Come on, Wikipedia. Load. By the way, you might notice that the footage is... You might notice that the screen is turning black every now and then. That is actually because I did not record this credit sequence. I actually had my cousin record it. But his recording software doesn't work terribly well with PSP games. And because of that, it blacks out every now and then, so sorry about that. Either way, it is on the NES, the WonderSwan Color, good luck finding it, the PlayStation through Origins, the Game Boy Advance through Dawn of Souls, and on the PSP, the iOS, and the Android through the 20th anniversary editions. If you want my recommendation as to which version to play, Game Boy Advance onwards. Because not only do they fix a lot of the bugs, but they make some things less annoying. Like, I think it takes less HP loss in order to level it up and such. And there's just more content to play through. But yay, it's finally over. And with that, the next LP that's coming up, as you guys may have noticed, this was just a little break game, is we're continuing on the Metal Gear Marathon with Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel on the Game Boy Color, and then ending off with a replay of Metal Gear Solid. So look forward to that, like either tomorrow or Monday or whenever.
That's very exciting sounding.
And I do want to thank you again, Kenny, because we went through some serious shit trying to record this in terms of time stuff, and I need to thank you for sticking around with this piece of crud.
You know, when you're around with me, I have a lot more fun. Just I don't.
Well, I am
don't
absolutely
know.
amazing. So.
I don't know where I'm going with this, but I guess having a really good friend along, and especially someone that I've known for. Well, I haven't known Kyle as long as other people, but still, knowing you as long as I have, it's so nice to have someone like you around.
And it helps that I know what I'm doing.
I mean, yeah, you teach me a lot of. You teach me, I'll teach you. Pokemon, kind of. It's kind of similar to that.
Jordan and I were singing that earlier, by the way.
Well, I mean.
But Cervantes, the final boss of Soul Calibur? I love paying attention to credits and seeing shit like that.
Well,
so we now know that a zombie pirate worked on this game.
He was probably just behind the scenes. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's all the Illuminati, man.
But yeah, but I think we can both say favorite part of this game's the soundtrack.
Yes. Pretty much.
I will always recommend people go listen to the soundtrack. It is really good. And if you can try and find them, people, try and listen to the not the unreleased tracks, the dummied out tracks the game had that were not used. Though you can easily find one of them in Final Fantasy VI. Some of those are really good.
Wait, what?
I mentioned it back when we first entered Kashuan. This game had a couple unused tracks. One was an airship thing that they didn't use in the game because it sounded too happy, especially for the point that you get the airship. And another was a dungeon theme that was unused that would later be used as a theme of the Magic House in 6.
Oh, Owzer's house, right?
Yeah.
I'd be interested in hearing how that sounds.
I'll see if I can
in this game.
Find a link for you later. And now we're watching the exact same credits we saw last time, a few moments ago, because these are the Final Fantasy II original development credits. Yeah, we're out of things to say at this point. How much longer do we have?
Like 30 seconds?
Okay, good.
Which is good, because I've been trying to hold in something really bad. So
a burp?
I don't know.
If it's
something
a burp,
far worse. Far worse.
Ah, flamethrower.
The magical
What,
hanky.
Ew. At least it's not mashed potatoes.
I was talking to Noah about that a couple days ago while we were playing Melee, and he was like, I wish he was here.
Well, that'd be a bit tough given the half a country distance between us.
Oh, well.
But with
that was fun.
We're going to need to end this Let's Play off here. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you again, Kenny, for joining me.
Thank you
And
for having me.
I'll see you guys over in Ghost Babel, and you'll next see Kenny either in the Wily Wars or Chrono Trigger. I don't know which one I want to play first, because I actually really love both of those.
Go Chrono Trigger. Yeah.
But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys
You guys.
then.
Then. No.
Yes.